So this is the week 13, video 1. We're going to start graphing linear inequalities. So there's a few steps we need to make sure are completed first. So step 1, we need to solve for y, which means we need it to be y equals mx plus b. Step 2, then after getting it in y equals, we want to graph using slope and the y-intercept. So solve for y, then you want to graph using your slope and y-intercept. And now that it's an inequality, when you graph it, you need to decide, are we using a solid line or a dashed line? What does our inequality tell us? And then step 4, now we need to remember to shade. We also don't forget to flip the sign when dividing by a negative. So what all does that mean? Let's look. So when we are using a solid line, it's going to be the greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or when it's just equals. So we've already been using when it's just equals. We use a solid line. And now when it's greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, we're going to use a solid line. When it's a dashed line is when it's just the greater than or less than symbol. Okay? And then for shading above and below, shading above is the greater than or equal to. Shade below is less than or equal to. So this is the greater than, you shade above, less than, you shade below. So take a minute, make sure you have all that written down. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause it. So looking at my example, move it back down so we can follow our steps. They give me this, they say graph y is less than 6x minus 2. So let's start with step 1, solve for y. Well, if you look, y is already by itself, so step 1 is done. Step 2, graph using your slope and the y-intercept. So if you look, slope is the number in front of the y, so m is equal to 6. My y-intercept is b. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b. My slope is the number in front of the x. My b is at the end. So that means that my y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 2. So then we decide, is it a solid or a dashed line? Well, if I look at my symbol is the less than. Less than is going to be a dashed line. And then we'll shade below. So let's go ahead and graph. Graph the point 0, negative 2. And then your slope, it's a whole number, so remember you need to put it over 1 because your slope is rise over run. So we're going to rise 6 and run 1 because it's positive. So because it is positive, we're going to go up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 1. If you need to give yourself a second point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 1. So then you want to use a straight edge, such as a ruler or anything else. Connect your points. Let's go back. It's a less than symbol, so I'm going to connect my points using a dashed line, okay? So using a dashed line, there's my line, and it's less than, so I'm going to be shading below. Below the graph. This side would be above, this side would be below. You can always check it. But that would be your answer. Take a minute, make sure you have all of that written down. Then we're going to turn to the back to do a second example. So graphing linear inequalities, like I said, you want to make sure step 1, solve for y. You want to graph using your slope and y-intercept. Step 3, then you decide, are you using a solid or dashed line? And then you make sure you don't forget to shape. Also, what we need to remember, don't forget to flip the sign when dividing by a negative. So if we look at our example here, now it's in standard form. We need to get it solved for y. We need it to be y equals mx plus b. So like we've been practicing, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. We treat the inequality just like it's an equal sign. We ignore it. X's cancel out. Minus 3y. Bring down your symbol. Move the minus 2x up in front, so minus 2x plus 12, because remember, we need an mx plus b on the right-hand side. Then divide everything by your number in front of the y. Your negative 3's cancel out. Y, when you bring down your symbol, we divided by a negative. You need to make sure you remember to flip your sign. Negative 2 divided by negative 3 is a positive 2/3 x. 12 divided by negative 3 is a negative 4, so that means I have minus 4. So now I have my answer. Y is greater than 2/3 x minus 4. Step 1 is complete. I solved for y. Step 2, graph using your slope and your y-intercept. My slope is going to be equal to 2/3. My y-intercept is the minus 4, so it's going to be 0, negative 4. So then deciding if it's solid or dashed line, we need to look back at our notes. If we need to, let's go ahead and fill them back in. Solid is greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or the equal symbol. Dashed is greater than or less than. When you shade above, you're looking at the greater than symbols. When you shade below, you're looking at the less than symbols. So you want to graph using your slope and your y-intercept. Step 2. So I'm going to graph 0, negative 4. And then using my slope, up 2 over 3. Your rise over your run, up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. So we have a couple of lines. Now let's look back at our symbol. Are we going to connect them using a solid line or a dashed line? Well, if we look, our symbol is the greater than symbol. Greater than is connected by a dashed line. So using some sort of straight edge, such as your ruler, connect your points. Put your arrows on the end. And then, do we shade above or do we shade below? Well, it's a greater than symbol. So looking at our notes, we're going to shade above. So all of this is where you can find your solutions. Okay, and we'll talk about more what solutions mean in our next set of notes. Right now, we just need to concentrate on graphing the inequalities.